now we are already in Azure. So let's proceed in creating a simple network and a server here in Azure. Our design is, so basically it's just same as AWS. So the virtual private cloud in AWS is equivalent to the virtual network here in Azure. Here is the VNet, or what we call the VNet. Inside the VNet is our different subnetworks, which includes our web servers. In the design here, we have a front-end subnet and a back-end subnet, the web server and the database. So here inside the VNet, you can create different subnetworks for different departments. So let's just say that the VNet network address is 10.0.0.0/16, and the web server subnet is 10.0.0/24, which is still included in the subnet of /16. And also I created an account here in Azure. I just registered my credit card here for me to have a free access for 1 year, which has a limit of $200 for the resources. So as you can see, the Azure services that had been offered here, you can create database, virtual machines, resource groups, and many more, which is included in the all services of Azure. So let's just first create a VNet. Before that, we can create a resource group. So resource groups is just a collection of the resources that you had been created here in Azure. So let's add a resource group. Resource group is my first VNet. Okay, resource group. So it's just the collection of your first network here in Azure. Let's reside it in East US. Review and then create. So you can see here that the resource group had been created. We had not yet created resources inside the my first VNet RG. So let's create a VNet. Our virtual network, and add. Let's just put it in my first VNet for organizing, and the name is my first VNet. Review and create. Wait, we'll just first review the IP address. So a while ago we created AWS/16 network for our VPC. Let's just have a same network here in Azure. And inside the VNet is our web server subnetwork. So let's name it as web server, and the IP address for our web server 10.0.0.0/24. Okay, so the security, okay, web server 10.0.0.0/24. I forgot to click add. security, the tags, and then we can create it running for final validation. Also, it's already passed, so we can create it. You can see here that notification, the deployment is on progress. So the deployment already succeeded. Let's go to the My VNet resource group, the one that we created a while ago. Okay, right now we still didn't see the VNet that we created, but as said here, it's already succeeded. Let's refresh our resource group. Let's go again. It must be here. The VNet must be here in the resource group. So let's just wait. Let's go to the resource group. Alright, so the VNet already appeared here. So inside our VNet, we can create a virtual machine. Okay. Inside the VNet, we already created the web server VNet, and also we can create the database network here. You can just add subnet here, but we just leave it as web server right now. So in the web server network, we can see that the subnet is /24. Let's create a virtual machine, or what we call the server here in Azure, or the EC2 in AWS. Let's add resource group my first VNet RG. So let's have it here. The name is my first VM. The default is no infrastructure redundancy, but for our resiliency, we must have availability zone. So here in Azure, the resources are also resilient. If you want to, and you want to have a availability zone for your server, so in case the server crashed, you still have an availability zone for different region. Let's have the image Windows Server 2019 and username. So let's have the username. So as you notice, in AWS we created a key pair which we used in the credential of RDP, the remote desktop connection in AWS, but here in Azure we just create it here. So the security of the connectivity is more secured. I think more secured in AWS because we created a PEM, my first VPC shared key pair in AWS a while ago. So let's just create a password in Azure now. Okay, so we must allow the RDP port for the inbound connection for us to penetrate the Azure server via internet on remote desktop. Here we can also enable HTTPS port, as the description of our server is web server, so we can enable the HTTP and HTTPS. But for right now, we just want to test the server using remote desktop, so I'll just open the port 3389 for the inbound connection. And if you have a Windows Server license, you can put it here to minimize the expenses, but right now I just put it as no. So next, the disk. We can have a standard HDD, SSD, or premium SSD for the hard disk that we will be using. So in the networking, the VNet that we will be use is the my first VNet, the /16, and the subnet is web server subnet. Public IP. So let's use a my first VM IP. Basic NIC public. Oh, okay. For the management, okay, advanced tags, and okay, let's create the server. Right now it's validation passed, so we can now create the server or the virtual machine. In notification tab, you will see that it's already initializing. Let's wait for it on the completion. Take note, guys, that when you create a virtual machine here in Azure, other resources also created together with the VM, like the public IP, the storage, the network interface card. You will see it when the deployment is already completed. So at first, when you go to our resource group, you will notice that my first VNet is just the one here. But when our deployment for our virtual machine is already okay and completed, we will see various resources also created together with a VM that are residing here in our resource group. Of course, our VM cannot function without the hard disk, the public IP, the network security group, or the firewall of the VM. So this must come together with the VM that we created. If we go to the notification, you can see that the deployment is already succeeded. So you can now go to the resource group. Okay. Or let's go to the my first VNet RG. Okay. As I said a while ago, there are other resources that had been created together with a VM. So the IP, the network security group, the network interface card, the hard disk, and the diag or the storage account. Let's go to the VM. We allowed the RDP connection for the inbound a while ago, so let's just access the server using its public IP address. So RDP. Let's connect. More choices. We set up the username. Okay. The password. Okay. Alright, so it's successful. Here is the server that we had rented in Azure. So we now have a Windows server. Windows server here, yes. Okay, let's go to our CMD to test our CMD. ipconfig. So is a /24 network with IP of 10.0.0.4. So that's it. We will now close it because we just tested the RDP connectivity, and we had already created an account here in Azure. So next time I will be discussing to you how to create a simple network here in AWS and Azure. So watch out for the next video, and thank you for viewing our simple tutorial for AWS and Azure. I hope you had learned from this lesson.